Everyone, we got some good news in regards to Anthony Davis in the whole injury front. We got an injury update. Dave McMillan reports that Darvin Ham, 2 weeks after Anthony Davis suffered the stress injury in his right foot, says the biggest thing is his pain has just about dissipated, and says Davis is trending in the right direction when it comes to approaching a ramp up to return to court. Now, this is obviously good news, right? Because a big concern was like, oh, maybe he got a stress fracture, maybe he's going to be out for the season. Like, what is going on with him? We knew that we would get an update within, 7 to 10 days. That was about 5 or so days ago. And now we got at least an update from Darvin Ham, right? I don't think Darvin Ham would make it up and just, I don't think Darvin Ham would say stuff just to say stuff, right? He's gonna, if Anthony Davis wasn't heading in a positive direction, he'd probably just give you, the general answer of like, oh yeah, we're still monitoring and seeing how it goes, whatever, right? Anthony Davis is the key. We need Anthony Davis sooner rather than later. Obviously, you don't want to rush him back too fast to where, he's not ready to come back. He tries to play through it, and now he does end up with, like, say, a stress fracture or something, and now he's out for the season, and your season's over. You still aren't that far away from a play-in to where it's like, oh, like, the season's done, it's a wrap. And hopefully LeBron and these guys can weather the storm. Hopefully they can kind of, just stay afloat. Right? You don't have to go, obviously if you can, but you don't have to go on like a 7-game win streak right now. You just need to kind of trade wins, stay within a certain range, so that way you're only at like 2 games, 3 games out of a play-in spot. Anthony Davis comes back, and then hopefully you can make a push because the Lakers looked really good when Anthony Davis was playing like a dominant monster. So hopefully Anthony Davis, if he can get back into that position, now you're in a great spot if you're the Lakers. You got Anthony Davis, you got LeBron James still playing like LeBron James. Russ is really kind of thriving as that playmaker role off the bench. So maybe you can go on, 5, 6, 7-game win streak if you're the Lakers when AD returns. That's the idea. That's the goal. That's the hope. Look, Anthony Davis is the key. We go as far as Anthony Davis takes us. We've said that since, the offseason. We've talked about it on several occasions. Anthony Davis, if we're going to win anything, a play-in game, a playoff series, a playoff game, whatever. Our road to a potential championship all rests on Anthony Davis. And I still firmly believe if we get into the playoffs, I'm not saying that we're a contender. I just want to clarify that. I'm not saying that, we're going to win. But I like our chances. There's not a single team in the Western Conference that I look at and go, man, there's no way the Lakers beat that team in a 7-game series. No way. Right? Like you still have Anthony Davis and LeBron James. If you're healthy, I think you're good. And I still believe that if the Lakers, for whatever reason, they pull the Dallas Mavericks and they make it to the Western Conference Finals, I believe that they win the NBA championship. Because I believe LeBron James is going to look at it as like, I need to win 8 games and I might never get back in this position. And I think you see like a turn the clock LeBron James. But again, he's not going to be able to do that without Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is the key. He's everything to this team and the most important piece. He's our best player. He's our most dominant player. He's the guy that can carry the workload on his broad shoulders. But what this also does is hopefully this is enough news, and the Lakers, I would imagine, are aware of this. I'm sure Darvin Ham doesn't have the inside scoop, right? I'm sure that everybody knows. This could potentially work out some type of trade. Maybe this gives the Lakers some incentive. Now, I still don't think a trade happens for another like 2 to 3 weeks, if I'm being honest. I don't, just because teams aren't in a rush to make a trade. They're not incentivized to make a trade. If one does come, great. I'm all for it. But I think realistically, we're still about a month and some change from the trade deadline. So I think teams are going to wait. They're going to reevaluate. They're going to, see what direction do we want to go? How do we want to go about this? A team like the Hornets, which I think would be, in my opinion, might be the best trade. But like a team like them, they're waiting to sign Miles Bridges. That's probably going to take some time. They're going to have back and forth negotiations and conversations. And if Miles Bridges gets anything close to a max, then I think that, we could be looking at a potential Hornets trade. But again, that probably happens closer to the deadline. But what this does is that if Anthony Davis is coming back, and Anthony Davis, let's say, is coming back early, to mid-January, right? Like, let's say, January 10th to the 15th, something like that. And he's coming back. Then maybe you can go and get some pieces so that way when he does come back, he doesn't have to have as big of a load. Right? You still want Anthony Davis to be the number one guy. You still want Anthony Davis to get his touches and be the dominant monster that he has been. But if you can go say he comes back on the 15th, you can get a trade done on like the 13th or 14th. Well, then now Anthony Davis comes back. He could still be that monster, but we're not so reliant on AD, right? If you can get some other guys that can chip in, get some guys that can guard the perimeter so Anthony Davis doesn't have to just make up for everyone's lack of defense and Anthony Davis being the sole defender, right? So hopefully this is like a good sign that like, okay, like we need to make a move. We need to do something. Again, I know many people like to say the season's over. I know many people, believe that it's done and there's no point. But like, again, one, it's not over. You just need to make the play. And you only need to win another like 20 games the rest of the season, which I think the Lakers can do. Two, there's not really much out there in the offseason, right? Like the Lakers would have $30 to $32 million, and that's not counting like Reeves or Walker or anybody else that they want to keep. And so you go and sign who? Like, who are you going to get? Unless Kyrie comes and he's willing to take that discount, or James Harden, which I don't see. I don't think he leaves Philly, but if he does leave Philly, there's a lot of reports that he's going to Houston. So, and that makes more sense than the Lakers, because at least there he has a young team that can kind of grow and handle the workload and things like that. But, I don't see, and a lot of the guys that the Lakers want, you could get right now, and you can get the bird rights, and you can, get multiple pieces rather than like in the offseason sign one or two guys, right? So, if you're the Lakers, I think a trade makes the most sense. You don't want to make a trade just to make a trade. I say it all the time, no trade is better than a bad trade. And what that means is if there's no good trades, there's no trades that make sense, you don't want to do a trade just to do a trade. And now you have, a lateral movement, or, you're just as bad or you're worse, and now you're locked in. It's better to have one bad season than several bad seasons, but if you can get role guys, like let's stick with the Hornets deal. Like if you could get the Hornets deal and you could get PJ, Kelly Oubre, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, like guys like that, even if it's not all of them, even if it's just a combination of those guys, like those are pieces that can help now and try to help you make a push. Worst case, if you do fizzle out at some point, at least you're building chemistry, you're building community, you're building that friendship and those relationships. And now you got a full off season and you got a full training camp to continue that. And then hopefully next season you can put yourself in a position to be a contender. The West is just so wide open. I just think it still makes sense to make a deal. If you can find the right deal, if you can find a deal that makes sense, you do it. You take it. Because, unless some crazy landscape trade or signing or something happens in the offseason or next season, then a lot of these teams are still going to be in the same position. The West is probably still going to be very wide open. And so if you could get pieces now that you can grow and you can get the foundation you need to move forward, then that's great. I mean, you still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You still have two top 10 players. Like, how many teams have two top 10 players? Not very many, if any. Like who? I don't think James Harden is top 10 anymore. So that takes care of them. Like who else? Maybe I don't think Jaylen Brown is top 10. Jason Tatum is, but I don't think Jaylen Brown is. You got LeBron James and you got Anthony Davis. And even if you don't think LeBron is top 10, he's playing like it. And even if he's not far off, maybe 12th, so like you still have top 10 to 5 player in the league, arguably the best player in the league when he's playing the level he was playing before injury. You have the two guys that we've seen are capable of winning a championship together. And I believe you got to do something. Again, don't do something just for the sake of doing something. We don't want a Luol Deng and Timothy Mozgov situation all over again. That's the last thing we need, to where we're stuck for the next 4 years, whatever. But if you can do a deal that makes sense, Anthony Davis comes back and returns, then that's great. That's a great position for the Lakers to be in. And maybe you can make that run, you can make that push. The Lakers need multiple pieces. Going and trading for just like a Bojan Bogdanovic isn't going to make us a contender. Does it make us better? Sure. Absolutely. We probably win more games than we would otherwise, but to make us like a legit contender, I don't know. But again, you get LeBron James and Anthony Davis into the playoffs, I'll take my chances. I'm not saying that they win. I'm not saying that they're going to win a championship, but they're definitely going to be a tough team to beat. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What did you think of this news? Is this good news? Is this bad news? Do you think Anthony Davis returns soon? Do you think it's going to be later? Whatever your thoughts are, however you feel, I'd love to hear them. Let me know down in the comment section below.